Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are honored to be sitting down with Tom Albright, the CEO of Bittrex Global. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tom.
Hi, Justin. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Something recently came across my screen, which is this press release sent out by Bittrex Global that you would be launching all the stocks delisted from Robinhood. You announced that you had listed tokenized stocks for GameStop, AMC Entertainment, as well as Nokia, BlackBerry, and even iShares Silver Trust, is something that particularly interests me. Could you tell us a little bit behind this announcement, and also what do you think the implications are?
Great. Yes, absolutely. I would love to. So back in December, at the beginning of December, Bittrex Global received a license from the Bermuda Monetary Authority to um, basically operate a market for utility tokens and security tokens, which we think is an absolute game changer in the crypto world. And what it essentially does is a regulated and licensed exchange that doesn't have to distinguish between utilities and securities anymore. So we don't have to go through a deep legal analysis on whether something sits on one side of the line or the other. We look at whether it's a token, whether it's a good product, all those sorts of things. And if it's something that our customers would be interested in, we're able to list it. So as part of that, as soon as we received that license, we launched tokenized versions of some of the biggest companies in the world: Amazon, Tesla, Netflix, Facebook, and so on. And we're particularly excited about that because it really allows access to billions of people around the world that have never been able to access these types of investments before, and allows those people to build portfolios that include Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, as well as traditional equities, and really create a one-stop shop to build those portfolios and grow their wealth. And I think we see that theme continue with everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks with, GameStop and SLV and the everything that happened with Wall Street Bets and Robinhood and other brokerage platforms and so on, to where a lot of people lost access to those types of investments and their ability to trade those things. And, for really unfortunate circumstances that, frankly weren't very fair to people, they lost their ability to access those things sort of quickly, randomly, and arbitrarily. And much to the detriment of the normal retail trader. And so we thought that due to that, it was really important for us to provide as many people as we could access back to those products that, because of the way that they had been cut off and, how unfair that was, that we wanted to do what we could to provide access. And, we're fortunate to have the license to do so and be able to utilize blockchain technology in order to do that. So it's something that we're very proud of, and something that we're really excited to have launched. And, we think it's something that's great for our customers.
How have your customers taken advantage of these new offerings?
Yeah, so the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, which is amazing to see. We've had a lot of our existing customers are trading these tokenized equities, and we've seen a huge rush of new customers wanting to onboard to be able to take advantage of them, to trade, to invest. And we've also seen a large number of new customers that are new to cryptocurrency in general. I think it's been a phenomenal bridge for people to, move from seeing what's happening in the traditional financial world to trying to get access to tokenized equities, to understanding what Bitcoin and Ethereum and so on are. So, we're really seeing this amazing bridge being created uh, from the traditional financial world to the um, crypto world, for lack of a better term, and seeing a lot of enthusiasm from that group of people that's discovering crypto and moving over. So, again, very exciting for us, and we're thrilled to see that.
What's the most surprising, ironic, novel, or even controversial aspect of all the new possibilities opened up by crypto, particularly in the last year or so with the emergence of DeFi?
Wow, that is a really big question. Wow. I'll tell you the thing that continues to surprise me is the reluctance to adopt the technology or the skepticism by which traditional regulators or traditional institutions sometimes look on uh, Bitcoin in particular, but crypto in general. And there's still in a lot of places this concept that it's just for criminals. It facilitates money laundering, and it's the Wild West and all those sorts of things. When the reality is very very far from that. We see so many more regulated entities coming into the space. We're seeing huge legitimization of the industry and particular products. And most importantly, we're seeing, forward-thinking regulators seeing how this technology and how responsible players in the industry really help law enforcement. They help combat money laundering. They help combat criminal behavior, and make things way better in terms of dealing with those issues. So it's, that mindset, the sort of Wild West criminal outlook is something that continues to frustrate me, but um, I think we're moving in the right direction at least. So that would be my answer on that. But there's always something interesting going on in this space, which is one of the reasons that I love it.
A former official with the SEC compared the GameStop investors with those who had stormed the Capitol. So, unfortunately, I just think that mentality for some is here to stay. And it's one that I couldn't disagree more wholeheartedly with. I will say, I think that personally, I first entered the markets through precious metals in about 2008, 2009.
Oh
And,
wow.
sin- and since then, I entered Bitcoin in 2012. And I think if there was one effect that that experience has had on me, it is a ability to stomach incredible volatility. And perhaps that let's call it Homo Bitcoinicus. And if I were to trade, moving into a USD type asset bores me almost. And when I look at something like Bittrex Global's recent announcement, where you're able to say hold a tokenized version of silver, something like that appeals to me far more. And I think I mustn't be the only one who feels that way. So if I'm holding assets on my Bittrex Global account, then I would rather sit in silver than in the USD if I was on the sidelines. That is like USDC.
Hmm.
I use Kraken. I'm here in the US. I use Kraken, and on that platform, I'm able to purchase Pax Gold, and
Hmm.
that also is more interesting to me than holding USDC.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly don't think that you are alone in that. And I think it's one of the best features of crypto and tokenization in general is that everyone who wants to be in the ecosystem can take their preferred approach. So if you want to be sitting in dollars, there are stable coins, USDC, USDT, that you can do that and get the advantages of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. If you want to be sitting in euros, you can do that. Avoid paying negative interest just to hold your own funds. And if, like you mentioned, if you want to be in gold or silver, you can absolutely do that as well. And we're very proud that we have, similar to Kraken, we have multiple gold-backed tokens on our platform as well, where people can access gold, silver, and you can really build whatever portfolio that you want to quickly and easily. Um, on your own and at very, very low fees in a way that you just can't do with traditional brokers, or at least, if you're lucky, you can do it, but you certainly can't do it easily and cheaply, especially as a retail investor. So I absolutely agree with you. And I think that people can come into the crypto ecosystem and to platforms like ours and access whatever products that they feel are best suited for them, and that's an amazing thing.
I'm not a big trader, but when I look at these markets, I almost view Bitcoin as sitting on the sidelines, sitting in Bitcoin as sitting on the sidelines. And I think a lot of traditional investors would think that was wrong-headed, foolish,
hmm
and insane, but that's the way I'm viewing these markets.
Well, I think it is an incredibly smart viewpoint, to be honest, and one I share completely. I don't know if you follow our podcast and the Bittrex Global podcast, which I'm lucky enough to host, but Jack Mallers from Strike came on a few episodes ago, and he just laid out this incredibly compelling narrative for Bitcoin versus fiat money. And if you are living your life and saving in Bitcoin, if you're sitting on the sidelines using Bitcoin as your currency, the purchasing power that you have is going up, 15 to 20% a year. It's a deflationary asset. It's an incredible store of value. It's getting more and more popular, all those sorts of things. Whereas if you're holding dollars, for example, um, the Fed is printing trillions of dollars with trillions more to come. And inflation is running rampant. And what you're really seeing as a result of that is you're getting the exact opposite feature of Bitcoin. Your purchasing power, the amount of money that you need to live your life is going down by, or is getting more expensive by 15 to 20% a year. And people certainly aren't making more money. So if you're sitting and saving in US dollars, you're just getting crushed by that inflation. Your purchasing power is going down by huge amounts. And so being in Bitcoin protects you against that and allows you to make more investments, to grow your wealth, and to preserve your purchasing power and the hard work that you've put in to build the assets that you do have and to earn the money that you have. So, Bitcoin is just an absolutely incredible product for so many reasons. But to me, that is one of the most powerful things for everyone who can access it. And it's certainly one of our missions is to allow everyone around the world to be able to access it. So I agree with you completely on that.
What's your path to Bitcoin, or what was your path to Bitcoin?
So I came to it actually much later than I think a lot of people in the industry. So it feels like to me I'm a latecomer, but I like to try and remind myself and others that we're still very, very early in Bitcoin and blockchain adoption. So my background is as a lawyer. I spent 12 years at O'Melveny and Myers, which is a big international law firm. I was in the San Francisco office doing all sorts of corporate transactions, mostly for tech companies and things like that. And in early to mid 2017, we started getting more and more fintech companies coming in the door and more cryptocurrency companies coming in the door as clients. And so we just started doing more and more work in the space, and I started learning more and more about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And so towards late 2017, Bittrex became a client, and I started working with them, doing a lot of different things, and that eventually ramped up until I was doing more and more work, and it made sense to come in house and be the general counsel at Bittrex. So it really was through my work as a lawyer and having Bittrex as a client that I really got into the space.
And there's lots of questions that still remain to be answered. And one of the common themes that I have when I ask people what they're keeping an eye on currently is the situation at Ripple with
hmm
XRP as potential security. I'm curious, like from the exchange perspective, what are some of the more riveting questions that are coming across your desk as a somebody with a legal background who's now an executive at one of the larger exchanges in the industry?
So you're absolutely right. There are so many questions, and this industry is moving so quickly and is on the forefront of so many things that there's just lots of exciting things to be watching. Um, One of the biggest ones, obviously, is regulation. I continue to see that being a theme that more and more countries around the world are looking to regulate cryptocurrency. There are proposals out there across Europe, all those sorts of things, and I think it's something that's really helping and legitimizing the industry. The other really big thing that I think is incredible is DeFi, and that's really on the forefront of the industry and how on-chain solutions are making a difference for people. And as ability to access DeFi and DeFi-like features gets easier and easier, I think that that will continue to grow. And so, how that fits together with both. Uh, sort of centralized exchanges and I almost don't even know what to call it, but almost like traditional cryptocurrency companies. The Coinbases and Bittrexes and Krakens who have been around for years. Um, how DeFi integrates with those types of firms and how those types of firms integrate with the traditional financial world. I think is incredibly interesting to watch.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as an executive?
Oh, very interesting one. I think that staying on top of the innovation that's happening in this space is one of the most rewarding and also one of the hardest things to do. Um, you know, i- People are building just amazing things, amazing token projects, amazing platforms, amazing whole ecosystems with DeFi and DEXs and some of the on-chain things that we're seeing. NFTs and things like that. So um, keeping track of all the incredible use cases and cutting edge products and all those sorts of things, and making sure that we are in a position to be able to support that innovation and allow our customers to access those sorts of things in a simple, easy, safe way is a huge challenge. But again, it's a huge part of what makes this industry so interesting and so much fun. So it's it's incredibly exciting to be doing.
What were some of the reactions of your peers when you decided to kind of jump into this industry that perhaps they saw as somewhat exotic?
That's a great question. Lawyers are, I will say, not known for being risk takers. And, I think the most common reaction was, oh, that's just a scam. That company will be gone. That's a fad that will burn out. It'll be zero soon. And, all those sorts of things. That was probably the most common reaction. Um, there were a few people. I was fortunate to be working, like I said, in San Francisco in sort of a more fintech, technology focused group. So there were some people who sort of agreed with the vision and thought that this will be something big, but they were definitely in the minority. So um, yeah, there was a lot of that.
What changes did you have to make that switch? Did you have to move residencies or anything along those lines?
I did, yes, actually, absolutely. So I moved. Bittrex in the U.S. Is headquartered in the Seattle area, and so I moved up there, and then uh, worked out of the Bittrex offices for a year and a half in that role. So obviously a big change from a family perspective and all those sorts of things. Um, but the biggest change I think was going from being at a law firm where you're very much on the outside looking in to being embedded within a company that's moving incredibly quickly and at the forefront of this amazing technology and to me, by far the most interesting space in fintech, and just seeing everything that's happening on a day-to-day basis and working with incredibly smart people. Um, Not that you don't get that at the law firm, but it's just a very different thing to be there minute by minute and day by day, be wholly immersed in it. So that was a big change, but a lot of fun.
And are you currently based in Seattle?
No, no. So Bittrex Global is headquartered in Vaduz, Liechtenstein. So we have offices in Liechtenstein and offices in Bermuda as well with our Bermuda license. So we actually operate separately from the Bittrex US platform. We have separate management, separate personnel, employees, offices, all those sorts of things.
And how is it over or presiding over such a distributed team? I think that much of the world has experienced this over the last year, how to cope,
Yes.
how to organize. In crypto, I think we had a little more experience with that generally leading into 2020. But I'm curious, as an executive, what are some of the challenges or benefits of overseeing such a team?
Yeah, we definitely had a bit of a head start in this industry. I think we're much more open to decentralization in general. Um, it's the really interesting thing part about it is we've been doing it for so long now. It almost seems like the right way to do things, almost second nature. Um, I think that the biggest challenges are just missing some of the face-to-face interaction, some of the less formal things. You can do Zoom calls and conferences and things like that with people, but um, getting a chance to sit down and have coffee or go to lunch with someone and find a little bit more about their background and judge their emotional state and things like that just um, get that much harder when you only have remote work. My personal feeling is that sort of a hybrid model is the best thing you can do, where you typically work remotely but come together on a regular basis. And hopefully we'll be able to get back to that at some point in 2021 as the vaccine gets more widely distributed and um, lockdowns sort of ease as a result of that. And also for people's health in general. But it's a very different. It's very different than the kind of traditional office space that we had for so long. So it's definitely been an adjustment for people.
So, just over a week ago now, Robinhood begins delisting, or rather, Robinhood pauses trading or limits
Hmm.
trading on some of the stocks in question, such as GameStop,
Hmm.
AMC, SLV also. Now, what's going on at Bittrex as this is taking place, and how were you able to move so quickly to list those stocks which Robinhood had delisted?
So, as I mentioned, we're very fortunate to have our license in Bermuda and to be have been working with the BMA for the Bermuda Monetary Authority for almost 9 months to get to that point. Um, and so we had put in all of the groundwork well in advance of that. And as I mentioned, we had launched our first round of tokenized stocks in December. And just as we saw what was happening and the complete lack of clarity and the mistreatment of retail investors in a very arbitrary way, we felt strongly that we had to do something about that and offer people as good an outlet as we could for their trading and for their investments and um, leave that open for them. And frankly, in a platform that we think is better and easier to access. We've got 24/7 trading. We've got fractional shares. You can trade against Bitcoin, which is obviously a huge advantage. Um, and so we felt strongly that we needed to offer that to people, that they were not being treated properly and were losing opportunities. And we were fortunately in a position to be able to do something about that. And so, we quickly decided to list those equities, those tokenized equities, and we worked with our partners, FTX, CM Equity, and Digital Assets Group um, to get those listed. So we're very excited to have done so. And as soon as I said, as soon as we saw what was going on, we felt strongly that we needed to do everything we could um, to open that bridge for our customers and potential new customers.
Do you view Robinhood taking such actions as a watershed moment for crypto?
I That's a really interesting question. I think that it's a very important point in the growth of crypto and the mainstream awareness of Bitcoin and crypto. Um, but my personal opinion is that blockchain technology, crypto, Bitcoin are all inevitable, that they're such better solutions that they're going to be ubiquitous at some point in the near future. And so it's sort of like the tide coming in. It's slow and steady as people realize and the gains come. So I think this was an important step to that. I think people saw, um, some of the problems with the traditional financial system, and some how those can be alleviated in the crypto ecosystem and with blockchain. And I think it's another growth opportunity for us. But um, I think there have been so many steps like that, and will continue to be so many more as more and more people see the benefits of blockchain and crypto, that it's probably overstating the impact to call it a watershed moment.
I've heard some quips that Robinhood ought not be called Robinhood, but rather the Sheriff of Nottingham app. I see that you've been tweeting quite a bit about Robinhood. Like for those investors who maybe haven't wrapped their heads around, particularly those retail investors with Robinhood on their phone, who
hmm
haven't wrapped their heads kind of around the implications of the situation, what would you say to them?
I would say that I think that where this has been a watershed moment, and what has really become clear, is that the traditional financial system, no matter how you're entering into it, and no matter how good the solution looks, is not set up to be for your benefit. It is set up to benefit big banks, big hedge funds, big institutions who are well connected inside. And that's something that you always have to be aware of when you're dealing with that system. And if you're going to go out on a limb in a way that the system, that's not even the right way to put it, if you're going to do something uh, that the system doesn't like and that harms the embedded players within that system, you're going to get punished. And the cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem are the exact opposite. They are founded on decentralization, on the power of the group and the ability of people to make their own choices, and to not have one centralized entity that can control how everybody else interacts with the system. So I think that that's something that people should always keep in mind and make up their own minds about how they store their wealth, their money, and how they grow their wealth.
I was quite surprised when I looked at the list of stocks that Robinhood would cease or rather limit
hmm
purchases to basically one share.
Yeah.
And I was it piqued my interest that SLV was one of those. I share Silver Trust.
hmm
Now, I think over the last 12 years, a big thread in the story of silver is actually Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin usurped a lot of young attention away from silver into
That
Bitcoin.
makes sense. Yeah.
I
hmm
think we would without the advent of Bitcoin, we would be witnessing a much different silver market than we do today. Now, last week, over the course of 24 to 72 hours, all of a sudden silver became trendy again. In fact, silver became that asset which I think it would have become if it weren't for Bitcoin. I'm curious, what do you think the significance of tokenized silver is? We've touched on that a little bit, but I truly believe that, as Max Kaiser said in my last episode, that gold, silver, and Bitcoin are all a part of the same complex. What do you think is the significance of tokenized precious metals?
So this is certainly not my area of expertise, but one of the things that I think about this is that um, I think traditionally precious metals have been hard to access. There's the physical storage issue. There's the do you have an asset that's backed by them one to one? Do you have something similar, a derivative product, and all those sorts of things, um, which make them a little bit more difficult to uh, be willing to put your money into, I think, for retail traders. Yeah, I think that tokenization, I think this applies broadly, not just to silver and gold, but to a lot of other things. I think tokenization fixes a lot of those issues where it's very clear to people what they're getting. It allows a immutable, provable, auditable solution to say I get 1 ounce of silver if I have this token, um, versus some sort of I own shares in a trust that may or may not have contracts to buy silver, and I can never take delivery on that. All those sorts of things. Um, and I think that tokenization allows easy access to a lot of assets that were traditionally very hard to get access to. And we're starting to see, particularly in the NFT space, access to digital art, to assets, to even to real world art and real estate. Um, and tokenization offers the pathway to do that, and then allows those assets to be traded 24/7 or purchased 24/7 and held securely in digital marketplaces, exchanges, and in digital wallets. So um, I think the technology of blockchain and tokenization is really opening up those spaces to a lot of people. And I think silver and gold are huge beneficiaries of that in the long term.
What's next for Bittrex Global throughout the rest of 2021?
Oh, that's a big question. It seems like a very, very long time in this industry. So we'll be continuing to list tokenized stocks. We want to continue to expand the opportunities for our customers. We want to continue to add other new products. We want to continue to bring DeFi tokens more and more into our ecosystem and allow customers to access some of the rewards that they can get through that. And we want to continue to improve our customer experience. We want to get better and better at what we do, and we want to get better and better at helping people build their wealth by accessing cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. So we're just going to continue to build and try to do the best we can for our customers.
And what have you noticed about the customers? What is their predisposition? What are they most interested in? Like, what unique insights do you think that you have as the executive of Bittrex Global that you're willing to kind of share?
So another really interesting question. I think that people come into the ecosystem, they come into or they hear about cryptocurrency in lots of different ways and lots of different introductions. The people who are trading GameStop got an introduction by seeing what happened at Robinhood and being able to purchase and trade on our platform on Bittrex Global. Some people first hear about Bitcoin through a friend, but what's most interesting to me is that almost everyone who comes into the ecosystem quickly realizes how powerful it is and how powerful the technology are and become hooked and really expand their knowledge of the ecosystem, branch out from whatever they came in on to the power of the other products. So if you came in through Bitcoin, you start looking at Ethereum, you start looking at tokenized equities, you start looking at DeFi. If you came in through tokenized equities, you realize how great Bitcoin is and how powerful. And so, to me, it's incredible to watch people come into the ecosystem, realize how powerful it is, realize how much it's driving change in the world, and how much it's creating opportunity for people around the world who never had it before to grow their wealth. Um, and I think that's a really phenomenal thing.
Has anything surprised you about the industry since you've entered into it?
Ooh, I would say on a daily basis, honestly. I think the pace of change is just something I never could have imagined 10 years ago. The innovations that happen in 6 months in this ecosystem are things that, when I would see technology companies from the outside in, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever, would have taken years. And I think the amount of brilliant people and hardworking people that are coming into this space and doing amazing things and doing them incredibly quickly is just hard to imagine, almost impossible from my old perspective, but um, so exciting to see.
I've seen DeFi as one of the biggest innovations of crypto,
Hmm.
probably since Bitcoin. I would imagine. Perhaps
Hmm.
even it's clearly got going to have had a much larger impact than the ICO.
Hmm.
I'm curious, when did DeFi come onto the radar at Bittrex Global or on your radar, and how has it affected your trajectory?
So I'd have to think back. I think we've supported a number of tokens, I would say, that were in the DeFi space really since the inception of Bittrex Global and we launched as a platform in October of 2019. But we really started seeing it getting bigger and growing more and more sort of mid to late spring of 2020. And then obviously it sort of exploded through the summer. Um, I think one of the reasons that our founders created Bittrex in the first place back in 2014 was that they sort of, a lot of the things I've said about believing that this is technology that will change the world and make people's lives better, was something that they believed in, and they founded the company on, or founded Bittrex on those principles. And so they've always, uh, at Bittrex and now at Bittrex Global, we've always strived to support innovation and to advance the adoption of the technology. And so, that's something that we've tried to do with DeFi as well, as we see how powerful it can be, and how many people are building incredible things in that space. That we want to support that as best we can from the perspective of a centralized exchange. We want to make access to it easier for people who um, may not be ready to hold their own wallets, or they want to dip their toe in, but they don't want to launch themselves off the deep end right away into DeFi. And that's sort of what we've been trying to do through the second half of 2020. I think we're going to continue to build out DeFi solutions and provide more and more access for our customers going forward as well. Because I think you're right. I think it's a huge and important innovation in the space. Um, and I think it's going to be incredibly important for us, for everyone in the ecosystem to support that.
We've seen over the last year companies like MicroStrategy, Square.
Hmm.
Am I missing any other than BlackRock, which is making moves towards Bitcoin at this point?
Yes, I think, I mean,
What's the
I think
significance?
I think it's huge, and it's another one of those, um, very important milestones that drive towards the mass adoption. I mean, in addition to those companies that have been very public, and we've seen a number of other firms, Paul Tudor Jones, Stan Druckenmiller, um, saying that they're buying Bitcoin and that they believe in the power of Bitcoin. We've seen, the Harvard and Yale endowments have been buying Bitcoin, and you know the uh, the assets under management at Grayscale, which is typically pension funds and institutional investments, has been just exploding. So I think that there are a lot of similar companies, institutions, and funds that are also accumulating Bitcoin, or investing in Bitcoin or trading it, but doing it much more quietly. But I think it's one of those huge moments where that continues to drive the awareness, continues to drive the adoption, and more and more people are realizing how powerful the technology is and how important Bitcoin is, um, and uh, how they should be involved. And I think that that's just going to continue to grow over 2021.
I wonder if one day we'll see BlackRock advising the Federal Reserve to buy not some of these bonds, but rather crypto.
That would be nice. I think it would benefit a lot of people.
I think one of the pet peeves I have about the industry is the emphasis on price. It seems that particularly in moments when the price is rising, all anybody pays attention to is the price, but then mysteriously when the price isn't doing so hot, no one even mentions it whatsoever. At least that's the impression one might get if they spend too much time. I
Hmm.
mean, perhaps any time is too much time on crypto Twitter. But you recently shared a article out of the World Economic Forum based, I believe, on a topic or discussion at Davos this year. And it was an article from Steven Stonberg.
Hmm.
And you write on Twitter that people get caught up in watching crypto prices, but the real story is that cryptocurrencies have the ability to democratize the financial system. Could you kind of speak from that perspective, from people's emphasis on cryptocurrency prices perhaps not being so healthy, and also perhaps leading them to miss the point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this, the whole GameStop Robin Hood story really is the perfect illustration. Um, Restrictions and rules can be, in the traditional financial system, can be unilaterally imposed from the top down, and a limited set of people have access to, what have traditionally been the best wealth building tools available. Um, Whereas with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, billions of people around the world that have never had access to those tools now have them, and they have them in a decentralized way, where the rules can't be arbitrarily changed at any moment, or their access can't be turned off. And the growth of the cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem means the growth in access, and uh, the number of people that are unbanked and don't have access to the financial system gets smaller and smaller every year. Um, I think another great example of that is Acoin, and what Acon is doing to build an entirely digital ecosystem in Africa, where people have traditionally, there are, millions of unbanked people, millions of people whose best access to a financial system is through trading cell phone minutes. And the growth of cryptocurrency and blockchain um, really empowers them, and people around the world, to build their wealth, to enter the financial system, and to do it in a way where their access can't be exploited by insiders, is incredibly powerful. And I, I think absolutely a much more powerful story than, um, the day-to-day price movements or day-to-day volatility. It's sort of like if you look at the ocean currents, right? Like the deep, powerful currents are moving, but if you just watch the waves on the top, you're sort of missing the bigger and more powerful movement. So it's something that I absolutely believe is true, and something that I absolutely believe is going to continue. We saw it through the last bear market, where people continued to build incredible things with blockchain, even where prices fell to significant lows from the highs that they had been. And we'll continue to see that as blockchain grows and people um, join the cryptocurrency ecosystem.
With that out of the way and said, it's hard to imagine a bearish case for Bitcoin today, sans some black swan event. What is your outlook generally for the space, in terms of price, but not only in terms of price, because obviously, if Bitcoin continues the trajectory that it's really been on since November, that'll
Hmm.
have massive implications for the ecosystem and the
Hmm.
job and the opportunities in that ecosystem. It'll just create opportunities across the entire planet. So, what's your outlook
Hmm.
in terms of Bitcoin for the next 12 months?
Well, I think, again, if you look at the use case, and you compare what you could store your wealth in, Bitcoin just makes an incredible case for itself. Storing in US dollar or euros or any fiat currency, and you are losing incredible amounts of purchasing power with the central banks around the world printing trillions of dollars, trillions of euros, trillions of yen. And um, I just think that the case for Bitcoin, it sells itself. It's such a compelling store of value. And as more and more people realize that, and obviously with the supply being uh, set years ago and limited to 21 million, there's an incredible demand for the product and a limited supply. I think we all know what that means for price. Um, in the long term. So I don't know what price is going to do in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, but I am 100% confident that in the long term, the price is going to continue to rise, and um, Bitcoin is going to continue to be an incredible investment, incredible store of value. So, um, if you can, if you want to trade, I think that is absolutely phenomenal. I think that people who are experts at that should, but I think if people want to buy and hold and harness that long-term power, I think that that's also incredibly powerful.
Any concluding comments about what's new at Bittrex Global, about your pledge to list whatever Robinhood limits or delists, or anything, any other comments in conclusion?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we're incredibly excited to be able to do that. Again, our mission is to help our customers grow their wealth using blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies, and so we're incredibly excited to be able to offer people access to those equities if they get cut off on other venues or through other platforms. And so we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to add exciting new products for people and continue to innovate. So, and we're very excited and looking forward to 2021.
It has been our pleasure to speak today to Tom Albright. He's the CEO of Bittrex Global. Of course, Bittrex Global is the one of the biggest digital asset exchanges in the world, operating a reliable crypto exchange. Thank you so much for joining us, Tom. You can access Bittrex at global.bitterex.com. Is there anywhere else people can find you other than I see on Twitter at Tom Albright?
Yes, absolutely. So please follow me on Twitter at Tom Albright. You can follow Bittrex Global as well. We're at Bittrex Global. We're also on Facebook and Reddit and other social media. Um, and yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Our pleasure. I see your Twitter. You keep it up to date with lots of diverse information about the space. And we thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you.